suppose it is something related to language testing.
Language testing?
Yeah.
Standardized testing is when students throughout the nation have to take like the same test with the same questions on the same topics.
Is usually a test given to a large population of people given the same information that they're supposed to learn initially that they'll be tested on with similar questions to assess how well they learn.
Standardized testing is when students are all given the same type of test no matter what kind of learning level they're on.
Standardized testing is testing that is distributed uniformly across a wide group of people.
Standardized testing is the way that we judge students' performance as compared to their peers. I mean, that's how I was saying, sort of, in terms of college, how you judge them compared to their peers for admission, things like that.
Examines your knowledge that you learned during your elementary years.
Okay, well, standardized testing, the term standardized means that it's the same, it's standard. So in South Carolina, we have what's called South Carolina Pass, where every student, I teach 6th grade, every student has to take the exact same test. That's why it's standardized, and it's graded by an external source at the State Department.
In my opinion, I feel like it is a way for the government just to get an overall check on the students without actually understanding what all they've learned compared to their disabilities and whatnot.
Standardized testing is giving the same test to a certain group of people to judge scores, so it's fair.
Standardized testing is a test that's used across the board for education. So standardized testing, it would be taken by everyone in a certain grade. It's standard across that grade in whatever sample size you want to have. That's standardized testing.
It is like a test that is the same across all the different states to see where the students are academically and to like make sure that all the different schools are on the same page.
In order to be admitted to United Schools, we have to take GRE and IELTS or TOEFL.
I've never had trouble with it, so I didn't really mind it, but I know some kids don't enjoy it. Like my brother, for example, he hates it.
Standardized testing.
I consider myself a fairly good test taker, so I've done well compared to other people, but I'm not sure that's a good representation of my actual knowledge.
I hate it.
I'm honestly an okay test taker, but it depends on what field I'm trying to go to, whether I feel more confident that I'll do well on it.
Testing.
I guess I would say that, and I know in this way I'm sort of a weird person and sort of different people, but I guess as a little kid I always enjoyed standardized testing because I was like, oh boy, this means I get to just do this thing and then spend the rest of the school day sitting there reading a book or drawing pictures or something, I don't have to do school today. And I guess I never got stressed about it or anything like that, which I hear about in the news all the time. But it's definitely, for me, it wasn't so bad. But
Well, I learned that I have retained a lot of the knowledge that they tried to fill my head with in elementary school.
Testing affected you?
Well, obviously that's what we're held accountable to at the end of the year. It's what students are placed in for school. And so obviously in preparing lessons and thinking about teaching, I have to make sure that everything I'm doing is getting them ready for that test at the end of the year, because that's what we're judged on, the teachers and the students.
Testing affected you?
Me personally, it hasn't affected me greatly. I mean, like I learn basic things through my classes that are like essential for the government, but they might not have helped me. Like they haven't helped me in college.
Testing affected you?
It was used as a measuring stick in middle school and high school to determine what classes you went into.
Testing affected you?
Well, when I was a kid, Standardized testing was kind of a reward if I did well on standardized testing. I remember doing the BSAP and the MAP testing when I was a kid, so if I got good scores, that was good. It also affected how I studied to go to college. Obviously, the SAT standardized test, and I had to study hard to do well in the SAT, math, and English at the time when I graduated high school to go to college. So, and honestly, it affected me as an engineer because I took an engineering test to become a professional engineer, which is a standardized test for all engineers.
Testing affected you?
Well, whenever I go into a standardized test, it gave me a lot of anxiety because I knew how important it was for college and for reflecting my teachers, how good of a teacher that my teacher was. So I felt pressure to do really well, and it stressed me out.
Improving education?
I think so, because it can enhance our language ability, make us more fluent in study here.
Education.
I think nationally it might help compare students all over, but that also means that everyone has to learn the same thing, which might not always be the best way to learn.
To learn.
It really depends on the student, but I think there could be better methods in place to test whether or not someone knows something. Usually people like to, it's been common that people say they just study for the test. So are you sure they actually know the information, or if they've just memorized it for a short period of time? There's probably better ways to figure out if someone knows what they're doing.
No, because some people might have testing anxiety or other problems and need different tests or just different things.
Education.
To a certain extent, yes, but standardized testing is field specific, so it could have some bias in it.
Education.
Now that's a difficult question. I'd say standardized tests are definitely, for specific fields, they're good. Like, you know, if you're going into like a STEM field or something and you're looking at the results of math, that's probably really relevant. But, you know, if you're like an English major, math's probably not so relevant to you. But, so I don't think, you know, maybe more subject-specific tests would be more important to people than just this very general test.
Personally, I would just get rid of it. That's just me, because I honestly don't think it really serves a purpose besides just seeing what you learn. But I mean, you take tests all year long.
What would you change?
I think the standardized testing needs to have more teacher input. Most people that do standardized testing, they're test writers. They're not educators, so they don't really know what's best for students. So I think more teacher input would make the test more beneficial and more real life for the kids.
What would you change about it?
I would change it based on like the personal academic level of the student. I mean, you have students with disabilities taking the same test as honors students. I mean, we're going to have to somehow even this out.
Testing, how would you change it?
If you could change standardized testing, I would say you might want to specialize people into categories, what they're good at first, and then test them on that for career choices.
What would you change?
I would like to see a standard procedure, at least for standardized testing. So like when you take tests to get your professional engineering license, like the FE exam, you can't leave answers blank. So if you leave answers blank like you can on the SAT, they actually get counted against you. So at the end of the test, you write down on your test. The same thing when you try to go to graduate school. I've got a graduate degree. When I went to graduate school, you have to answer all the questions. In a different sense, the SAT, when you're in high school, you're supposed to leave them blank because they don't count against you if you miss them, so that doesn't really reward you to guess. So keeping up with all the rules and regulations, it's really hard, especially if I've taken like 10 to 12 standardized tests in my life, different types, so it's hard to keep up with all the rules and regulations.
About it, what would you change?
I think I would give the teachers more of an input on making the test so that they can have a say in like what they've taught and what we're prepared for, instead of people that aren't in the classroom on a daily basis.